Board game chat. Board game chat. Board game chat. It's board game chat. Hi, I'm Stephanie with the Ann Arbor District Library, and today I'm going to talk to you about escape room games and puzzle-y games. So these are, if you're familiar with what an escape room is, then you might know sort of what I'm talking about here. If you're not familiar with what an escape room is, just a quick intro to that. They're usually a location that you would go to with a group of friends, and somebody would be there to set the scene for you, give you some background on what the theme of the room is. You would go into the room, and there would be puzzles that you and your friends would have to solve in order to, in a certain amount of time, escape the room. And so these games sort of mimic the escape room. At least some of them do, and some of them just lean more towards puzzle. But I feel like the puzzle aspect is really integral to escape rooms, and so we're going to talk about these today. And so this one is just called Escape Room, the game, and this actually has four thrilling escape rooms in one. So there's four different, and they're listed on the side, four different ones that you can play through, and the box looks a little beat up. So inside of here, there's actually a lot of pieces because it's all of the things that you need for each one, but they're all packaged in each individual bag. And then the coolest part about this one is this device and these lock picks that, just have them in an IKEA bag, that fit in there. And so the lock picks kind of have different symbols on the sides and at the top to indicate which go into they call it the chrono decoder. And when you play a mission, you will be deducing which keys are supposed to go in the holes to match the puzzle, the answer to the puzzles. And it's been a little while since I've played through these. I think that each of the missions are meant to last about an hour, and they all have really cool, packaging, and it'll say something like, "Don't open before instructed to." So like I said, there's four puzzles in this box, and this cool chrono decoder. I think that they do have other expansions for this as well. So if you finished these and enjoyed it, I think there's more out there. Each puzzle in this, it looks like there's not a lot to it, but each puzzle I think takes about 60 minutes. So that is Escape Room, the game. Okay, so this one is called Escape the Room. That's the name of the series, and the specific one is Mystery at Stargazers Manor. This is by Think Fun Games, and this is a series. I've only played the first one in the series, this Mystery at Stargazers Manor, but there are a few more that they have out there. And they really encourage you in the rulebook to sort of set the scene for your friends, invite them over, maybe have people dress up, play some spooky music. So this is for 3 to 8 players, and the only thing that you need besides what's in this box is maybe a piece of paper and a pencil if you want to take notes, but you don't need that. But you do need a timer, something to keep track of your time, because in the end, depending on the number of players, I think if you have 3 to 5 players, you only have 2 hours to figure out all of these puzzles and escape from Stargazers Manor. And in this one, there are several rooms that you're going to go through. And those are all indicated by these envelopes. And so each envelope is a room inside of this house. The rules tell you which one to start with, and you open it up. There's just a sticker here. You break the seal, open it up, and read the puzzles inside. and once you get through those puzzles, they'll give you the code to get into the next room. And the codes are entered in on this solution wheel, and so you would just spin the wheel, and it's kind of hard to see because they're very tiny symbols, but you'd spin the wheel to match up the symbols that you think are the right answer to the clue, and then it would show you in the center if you are correct or not. And then something inside of that packet will tell you, okay, you're correct, move on to this next room, or not. If you're incorrect, you just won't get the right answer there. The thing that I really like about this one, so once you've played it, the puzzles, you know all the puzzles, and some people like to play a puzzle twice. For me, I remember a lot of the clues and the answers, so I don't, but because this one is fully resettable, you can put everything back exactly as it was when you open it up. You can give it to your friends and that didn't play it with you this time, and they can play it as well. So I like that this one is completely resettable. And that is Escape the Room, Mystery at Stargazers Manor. So these ones are all in a series. This is the Unlock series of games. This is by Space Cowboys, and each of the scenarios is by a different designer. So I'm not going to call them all out because that'd be a lot. And this is just a selection of them. There are more in this series. So each of these plays about an hour and goes from, well, most of them go from 1 to 6 players. There are, like this scenario right here does actually need 2 players to play it, but that's 2 to 6. So most of them are 1 to 6 players. So these ones, just like the Escape the Room game, are completely resettable when you are done with it, so you can put it back in the box and pass it on to another group of friends if you would like to. And I'm just going to show you, so each game, each of them comes with the exact same tutorial, so you can get accustomed to the rules without jumping in, because you don't want to waste your time while the timer's going to figure out the rules, because the time at the end is your score. So each, this is the room that you would start in. You would see that there's some numbers there, and then these are the cards in the deck. So anytime you open up the game, so this is just the tutorial, I don't want to have any spoilers here, you would put the main room out, read the scenario that's listed on the back, and then evenly divide the cards between all the players. And any card, any number that is listed there is a number that you can flip open and see what's going on with that card. So there is sort of some, like, real fast, like, I see number 42, can you grab 42, or is that in your deck? And try and be fast about that sort of stuff, because the timer is going. And that gives people a chance to get engaged in the game, even if they were really struggling to help the group figure out the puzzles. They're still able to get engaged with that because they have a set of the cards. If somebody else finished the puzzle and yells out, "We need card 25," at least then they can be frantically searching through their cards and be engaged in the group that way. And so then each card that's revealed gives you some more information about the room that you're in. I'm not going to go into all of the mechanics of this, but they are pretty simple to learn, and then once you get into the puzzle, they're really fun. This one does have an app that is required to play, and that's on Android or iOS. The app itself is free, because once you've paid for the game, you don't want to pay for an app as well. But it is required. It's not just a simple timer. It'll allow you to get hints on the puzzles if you need hints, and it allows you to type in to see if you've gotten the puzzle correct. It'll tell you if you got the puzzle correct. If you got a puzzle wrong, it might give you a penalty. And in some of the later ones, there's even like VR component, or not VR, AR components, where you're like holding the phone and it's activating your camera so you can see things on the cards that aren't actually on the cards. So, and each of them, what I really like about this series is it doesn't feel like you're playing the same game over and over again, just with different puzzles. They introduce new mechanics in almost all of them, different things, little things that kind of change it up that you're like, oh, that's really neat that they added that to it. That goes well along with the theme. So this is just a selection of them. And they're pretty cheap to get started. They're about $12 a piece. So if you're into that type of thing, I recommend you check these out. Okay, so this one is called Exit the Game, and this is also a series, so this is the Forbidden Castle. This is actually just an empty box at this point, because unlike the other ones that I talked about, these ones are not resettable at all. Often they will have you drawing on the rulebook or on the cards, tearing up cards or cutting things. So these are not resettable in any way. Once you've played it, it is done. The rest of it's basically trash. But good for a box. So these are by Cosmos Games. These ones do have a difficulty rating on the bottom there, and I found that difficulty rating to be pretty accurate. If they say expert, it's going to take you a lot longer to finish. And that difficulty rating's also listed on the back here, and it gives you a little bit more information about what the difficulty is. So it rates it on strategy, luck, fun, and riddle solving. So this one was a difficult one, and its riddle solving component is 5 pips out of 5. So these ones, they're 1 to 4 players, and they go 1 to 2 hours, and when I've played them, at least, we did hit that 2 hours most of the time, especially on the more difficult ones. And I don't know if you can see the wheel there. We don't have the wheel any longer, but they do use a similar wheel for the riddle solving like Escape the Room did. So that is a similar mechanic there. So this is just one of the exit games from Cosmos Games. Alright, so this is another series. This is the Undo series, and these two are still in trink because I haven't given them a try yet, but I have played this one. These are 45 to 90 minutes, 2 to 6 players by Pegasus Spiel. So these are a little different than the other ones I've talked about. So these are more puzzly than Escape Room. You're not really in a room escaping things. The theme for these, kind of the overarching theme for all of these, is that the cards will represent a timeline that is laid out on the table for all players to see, and you only see one side of the card, and you know the outcome of this timeline, you know the end result, and through investigating the rest of the timeline and making choices on those cards, you hope to change that end result into something more positive. If you have 2 players, if you have 6 players, there's still the same amount of turns in the game. Not turns per players, but just turns final. So if you have more players, then that's less turns per player. However, like, the turns are, like, one person would pick a card and read what's on the back of it, and then there's some options there on what to do. And you're trying to figure out what the best option is to create the best end result of this timeline. So there is communication with the other players. It's not like you're the only person, like, having that information. You're sharing it with the group and cooperatively making those decisions. So like I said, there's an entire timeline laid out in front of you, and there's a finite number of turns, so you need to, based on the images on the back and what text is written on the backs of them that you can see, need to figure out which of these timeline events are most important to investigate. Some of them are going to be red herrings, some of them are not going to be really that important to the end result or the character's development. So you need to figure out which ones are most important and investigate those ones, change the timeline from there, and go on. So it's called the Undo series because you are trying to undo the past. So that is this series, Undo by Pegasus Spiel. So this is Time Stories. Time Stories is, this is Time Stories The White Cycle, and they've actually just released a new series, which is the Blue Cycle, but I'm not going to talk about that. I'm just going to talk about this. this is all out and available in stores. So Time Stories is a whole series. This is also by Space Cowboy, who did the Unlock series that I talked about over here. This is the main box that you need to play all of the scenarios. So each of these scenarios just includes the cards and stuff that you would need to play the scenario, and then this includes the board and all of the pieces, as well as a scenario on its own. So, what is Time Stories? Time Stories is, they are not really escape rooms. They're sort of puzzles where each player takes on a character. You're a person in the future, and then your consciousness is transported to another timeline. Not always back in time, not always forward in time, just another timeline. And while inhabiting that character, you need to fix something that's been broken in the timeline. It's always something different, and throughout all of these, there's sort of a thread of the same story going on. So some of them are more fantasy, some of them are more action. This one's pirate themed. I think this one's Egyptian. One of them's Egyptian themed. Some of them are more realistic themed. The one that comes in here is the Asylum, where it's kind of more puzzly than the rest of them. They all do have puzzles that you have to solve, but I think the main one was a bit more puzzly than the rest. So these all include different scenarios, different characters, a little bit of different mechanics throughout. And like I said, you need the main box to play all of them because this includes the board that you need to play. So that is Time Stories. And this is the white cycle, like I said, and they're coming out with the blue cycle, which is going to require an entirely new main box, unfortunately. So yeah, in these you are traveling to another timeline to try and fix the broken timeline, travel to different locations within that scenario, and inhabiting these other characters. So that is Time Stories. So these are the escape room / puzzle games that I discussed. So some of them are a little just more puzzly, some of them are more escape room than others. What I've found is that the escape room games tend to be in series, because once a company finds something that works, that the market is responding to, players are responding to, they now have their formula in place. They can just keep going with that and produce more puzzles, and I really like the series that can produce more puzzles and also keep it fresh. Keep putting something new in there. It's the same thing again, but completely different as well. I found that most of these do that really, really well. So if you can't get out now to go visit your local escape room, maybe you can give one of these a try.